this is my review of Kaito Joker. Okay, so in this episode, Joker actually goes to a tropical island to actually steal something called the Scarlet Heart, which we do see in this episode. And it is interesting because he actually has a bit of another run-in with Professor Clover, albeit one of his major lackeys. But in any case, it starts off with Joker and Hachi actually arriving in the Road Joker, which is transformed into a boat, and Hachi is a little, and as Joker points out, Hachi is just a little too excited about the fact that the Road Joker can go on water. And when they arrive on the tropical island, again, Hachi is very excited, pointing out that it's a very good that seeing all the sights is going to be very fun. Until he realizes that they have to climb up a sheer cliff, and which he becomes a little bit annoyed at. And Joker points out that that's actually the entire reason they're there, pointing out that they're actually heading up there to actually find the Scarlet Heart. And Hachi questions him if the Scarlet Heart, if he's even sure the Scarlet Heart is here. And he points out that the only way to really figure it out is to actually go and see. At which point they're actually attacked by a giant bird, which is then scared off by a helicopter. And Hachi and Joker, curious as to what the helicopter actually is, proceed to finish scaling up the entire side of the mountain. And they're then attacked by some kids who start throwing rocks at them, and then leave. And Joker and Hachi are both a little confused as to what that was all about. And then they find out pretty quickly what they were going on about, and realize that their home is actually being invaded by Professor Clover's goons. And that the whole leader of the goons, a man named General Mambo, he shows up to actually take ideas of the situation and figure out what's going on. Pointing out that he literally just flew in and was actually kind of there to investigate and figure out what exactly they have found out. And obviously, the Clover goons actually find out that they're actually there for the Scarlet Heart as well. Which Joker becomes a little annoyed at, pointing out that if Professor Clover is after the Scarlet Heart, that they need to hurry up and figure it out. And eventually, one of the Clover goons actually uncovers a tablet which has a riddle on it stating that that by painting the ground red, and you then bring the tablet to where the angry god points, and then the final legend would be that whoever holds the Scarlet Heart is a hero of legend. So the idea of that, and Mambo is a little annoyed and even yells at the village elder, pointing out that he was clearly hiding something from him, but the elder actually had no idea what the tablet actually means and isn't entirely sure what's going on. But General Mambo actually doesn't care and orders his goons to actually shoot them. At which point Joker finally intervenes and stops them. And Hachi points out is proud of them, pointing out that Joker isn't the kind of guy to stand idly by and let civilians get hurt. But as it turns out, no. Joker's just a little bit annoyed that the guy showed up at a helicopter while they had to climb up the sheer cliff face. And Mambo points out that Joker's clearly after the Ruby the Heart as well. And then orders his goons to shoot him. At which point Joker actually swipes the stone tablet with the riddle on it, and then proceeds to leave into the woods with Hachi. And they actually do manage to give Mambo and his goons the slip, and then proceed to wonder how they're actually supposed to figure out where the Scarlet Heart actually is. And Joker points out that all they really need to do is figure out what the riddle actually means, and then they can actually figure it out from there. But as they're figuring out, somebody actually points a gun at the back of Joker's head and says that they finally found him. But when Joker turns around, it's revealed to just be Spade, who just showed up with a whole bunch of supplies and a whole bunch of food. And points out that and when Joker questions why he's there, he points out that he's after the Scarlet Heart as well. which much to Joker's annoyance, who then proceeds to declare that he doesn't want to work with Spade at all, pointing out that whenever they do, they always fight over the treasure, and he never actually gets any of it. But Denver decides to actually hear them out when it's revealed that Spade has actually decided to feed them, and they since he and Hachi are actually hungry, he decides to just hear them out. At which point they then proceed to go through the riddle piece by piece, as Joker kind of stuffs his face. And Spade points out that what his interpretation of the riddle is that there's actually a stone statue called the Angry God statue, which is to the north of the island, and he points out that bringing the tablet there is most likely part of the solution. And Joker proceeds to wonder a lot if it's actually that easy, but they're then interrupted when Dark-Eye and Hachi then start bringing out the next several courses of food, in an effort to try and compete with who is actually the better assistant. And they kind of just stuff Joker to bloating. And Spade remarks that camping in the woods actually reminds them a lot of when they actually trained under Silverheart. And they then proceed to recall the time where they had to play Red Light Green Light with a wild bear. And that and it's actually revealed that there's actually a third person in the group. We don't actually see their face, but based on what little we do see of them, it's heavily implied that Queen is the third member of their group. Which begs the question of what caused her to actually decide to defect from the group and actually start working with Professor Clover in the first place. That's probably going to be a mystery that's going to be delved into a little bit going forward. I'm interested to see how that's actually going to play out, but yeah, but in any case, as they're reminiscing, Hachi and Dark-Eye actually proceed to finish off the buffet that they've prepared, and then proceed to eat before actually getting ready to go to the actual location of the Angry God statue. And while they're doing that, Professor Mambo actually calls up not Professor Mambo, but General Mambo actually calls up Professor Clover and tells him what's up, about how Joker is there, and Professor Clover points out that he's likely after the Scarlet Heart, but points out that obviously the General Mambo should do everything in his power to actually prevent that from happening. And points out that if he doesn't, that he should actually kill Joker if the situation arises. And General Mambo agrees on the grounds that he might actually be able to actually increase his rank within Professor Clover's organization, and Professor Clover agrees to that statement on the grounds that he actually brings the Scarlet Heart back. So yeah, with that, the group then proceeds to head towards where the Angry God statue is, with Hachi actually leading the way, funnily enough, until he realizes how quote-unquote treacherous the actual trek actually was. With Joker merely remarking that he has a bit of a vivid imagination, but eventually they do arrive at the statue, and they actually point out that it doesn't look all that angry, but they also point out that the stone statue seems to be pointing to a relief in a little stone pedestal. And Joker proceeds to conclude that that's just as simple as actually putting the statue in the pedestal, and seeing what happens. But Spade quickly realizes that it might actually be a trap, and noticing that the statue is actually pointing to the sky as well, and points out that that it's likely that it is indeed a trap, and they actually need to actually think of another way of where to actually put the tablet. But Joker points out that there doesn't seem to actually be a place, but does point out that it is a little bit strange that it seems a little too simple for the riddle. At which point they're actually confronted by General Mambo, who shows up, revealing that he actually stalked them through the woods as they were making their way to the statue, and then proceeds to point out that he's now going to take the tablet and steal the Scarlet Heart for himself, unless they actually surrender, which they don't. So General Mambo has his goons actually trying to arrest him, and they're actually chased to the far end of the cliff face behind the statue. At which point Joker actually finds out what the riddle was actually meaning, and then realizes that it would actually be trouble if General Mambo actually came over there to take the tablet, pointing out that he would actually figure out the solution as well. And realizes that he actually needs to do something. He pulls out one of his Joker cards, and tells General Mamba to keep his distance. Only for, weirdly enough, Spade to suddenly turn on Joker and throw him under the bus. And Joker is a little confused as to what's going on, pointing out that Spade isn't normally the kind of guy to portray somebody, but then Spade outright declares that he tricked him, and Joker eventually realizes what's going on and realizing what's going on, Joker then proceeds to point out that Spade has always been the kind of guy who doesn't really like working with other people and would always turn on somebody the moment they can. And the two then proceed to fight with Spade actually firing his gun on Joker and Joker throwing one of his cards, which results in an explosion. Joker is hit and is presumably fatally wounded. At which point Hachi tries to intervene, pointing out that the two shouldn't be fighting. And tries to go help Joker, but Darkrai actually knocks him out. So yeah, Joker and Hachi are either dead or incapacitated, or at least implied to be. At which point, Spade actually hands over the statue to lead to the Scarlet Heart and tells General Mamba how to actually insert it into the tablet and how to actually solve the puzzle. And he points General Mamba to the statue to where the statue is believed to be pointing, which is the giant pedestal with the relief in it. And General Mamba points out that if Spade actually wants anything in return, but Spade merely points out that all he really wants is to see the Scarlet Heart, and also keeps his distance. And then we find out why. So as it's revealed, the Scarlet Heart is actually the Scarlet Heart actually is not inside the statue, but as it turns out, as General Mamba learns the hard way, putting the stone tablet in the relief where the statue is pointing actually results in him getting crushed by the statue, at which point Joker is revealed to both A, be alive, and B, reveal that it actually was a trap in the entire time. At which point Joker and Spade proceed to explain what actually happened to General Mambo. So as I kind of implied when I reviewed it earlier, Spade telling Joker that he tricked him was actually the tip-off that Joker needed to point out that Spade was actually pretending to be in cahoots with General Mamba so that he can actually shoot Joker. And Joker quickly figured it out, pointing out that Spade is not the kind of person to actually outright admit that he's tricked somebody. Case in point, that's Spade's entire thing, where he will pretend to trick somebody, but then ultimately not admit that he's actually tricking somebody, and that's kind of been a recurring thing for his character up until this point. So, yeah, Joker is quick to point out. But then when General Mamba voices his confusion, pointing out that clearly Joker was shot through the heart, Joker merely points out that it was just a paintball gun full of fake blood, and that obviously, as Silverheart once put, that a phantom thief has no need for killing tools. At which point Silverheart himself then interjects with one of his information corners to just kind of point out how cool the line is, and then just voices pride in actually saying it. But in any case, General Mamba was a little annoyed that he was tricked, and that he was actually lied to. But everything Spade said was actually the truth, and that he actually didn't lie to him at all. But now with General Mamba actually dealt with, and Professor Cover's Gloons actually dealt with, Spade actually needs to Spade then voices that they need to actually figure out the solution to the whole statue riddle, only for Joker to reveal that he actually figured it out a while ago. And then proceeds to take them to the backside of the cliff now that the sun has set a little bit. And then proceeds to show them that what the stone tablet is actually referring to is the god's statue. As it turns out, the statue actually isn't all that scary looking until you put the tablet in, at which point its face becomes very scary. As he points out, the statue's shadow is actually a completely different story and actually looks like an angry god pointing to somewhere where you would actually bring in relief. And he then points out that where the shadow is pointing is where they're actually supposed to bring the stone tablet. So they then proceed to hike to that clearing where they actually saw where the statue was pointing. And after uncovering another relief to put the stone tablet in, they then proceed to place it in. And then a giant box sticks out of proceeds to pop out of the ground, and the Scarlet Heart is revealed to be inside. And Joker and Spade are happy that they actually found it, pointing out that it actually was real the whole time. But then proceed to start fighting over it, which Spade and with Darkeye and Hachi actually dissuade them from doing. But then the old man from the village elder, he actually shows up, sees the two of them fighting over the Scarlet Heart, and points out that not only was the legend true, but that they are actually legendary heroes sent to save the village, which they did. And unfortunately, as a result of this, not only do they wind up giving the Scarlet Heart back to the village, albeit against their will a little bit because they actually take it from them. But on top of that, they actually wind up hitting the road with a lot of food. So they don't actually steal the Scarlet Heart by the end of the episode. It actually gets reclaimed by the village, but because they actually saved the village, they are actually revered as heroes now. So and the legend actually implies that they are heroes now. So now that they found the stone step, now that they actually found the Scarlet Heart, it can be returned back to the village, and is now in the property of the villagers, who are presumably going to do I don't know what with it. So yeah, interestingly, this episode just kind of ends up on the fact that Professor Clover, good news is neither the good guy or the bad guy have the actual Scarlet Heart now. Professor Clover's goons and General Mambo weren't able to actually steal it, but neither were Joker and Spade. The episode just kind of ends on them losing the treasure to the villagers, and the villagers just kind of keep the treasure for themselves, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, it just kind of ends on that note. But yeah. In any case, that's just my review of Kaito Joker. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does help me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks, and I'm always saying thanks. So if you guys want to go check that out, be sure to check that out down in the description. And also, while you're down there, be sure to check out my Twitch down in the description as well. I stream every Sunday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, so if you guys want to go check that out, by all means, again, link is down in the description, so if you want to check that out, by all means, go ahead. Again, every Sunday at 2:30, so if you want to see those, by all means, just follow me over there so you see the notifications for all that. Just do that. That's literally the easiest thing you can do. Just hit the follow button, and that's it. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one. Whereas the bottom video is a video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, regardless of whether or not you do any or all of those things, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!